I got invited to film a horror-themed reality show. During the live stream, paranormal events started happening one after another, and the other guests were screaming their heads off. In the chaos, I got locked in a creepy, dark room with a few nasty ghosts. I looked at them and gave a friendly smile. They looked at me, and their eyes filled with terror. I'm a C-list nobody in the entertainment world, currently drowning in online drama. Some reality show, looking to cash in on my trending notoriety, invited me to be a guest. My agent signed me up without even asking and basically just shipped me off. Fine, whatever. I stared at my phone, reading the latest gossip about my supposed affair with the A-list actor Ethan Zhao, and marveled at the tabloid's talent for making things up. Ethan's fans couldn't stand the idea of their idol being linked to a C-lister, so they were all out in force debunking the rumors. My handful of bot followers didn't stand a chance against their army. It was a total bloodbath, and honestly, I was kind of living for the drama. My young assistant saw the trending topics and looked like she was about to cry. Mia, if you go on a reality show right now, they're going to eat you alive, aren't they? I waved a dismissive hand. Sweetie, relax. It's just a show. What's the worst that could happen? It's not like they can actually eat me. My name is Miyagi. My parents picked it out because a fortune teller said I was lacking the water element in my life. My assistant gave me a pitying look, as if I were about to walk into the lion's den. I scoffed. The car pulled to a stop. We were at the filming location. It was a horror-themed escape room show that had invited a ton of celebrities since it started, and its ratings were pretty solid. I had no idea what made the director suddenly decide to contact a nobody like me, but it made sense why my hyper-ambitious agent kicked me out the door without a second thought. I glanced at the set. A few of the other guests had already arrived. I wasn't the last one, but I was definitely the least welcome. The guests, who had been eagerly watching for the next car, saw my face and their expressions froze. The show was a mix of live and pre-recorded footage, and the live stream had already started. There were 4 people there. One was Laura Chun, an award-winning actress who's been a powerhouse for years. I heard she got secretly married a while back and has been keeping a low profile, so I have no idea how the show managed to book her. Another was Kevin Zhang, a pop star who got his start on a singing competition. He's handsome and serves as the face of his group. Then there was Leo Liu, a former child star who just finished his SATs. His scores weren't out yet, so he was probably just on the show for fun. Even though he was the youngest, everyone except Laura probably had to call him a senior in the business. The last one was Bella Bai, the current it girl. As luck would have it, we just finished working on a project together. She was the female lead, I was the evil rival who tried to kill her. Back on that set, Bella's assistant went to the director and said my face was too distractingly beautiful and would outshine the lead, demanding that I be replaced. Later, I guess Bella's financial backers made a call. The studio didn't replace me, but they did make me wear ugly makeup and costumes. I didn't really care. If they wanted ugly, they got ugly. That's life, that's showbiz. I get it. The things I put up with to avoid going home and inheriting the family fortune. On the live stream chat, who just showed up? Why does everyone look so weird? I knew the director was up to something. It's a small cast, why all the secrecy? So extra. Don't be so sure. I heard through the grapevine there's a huge star this episode. What huge star? Isn't Laura Chen big enough? My assistant was left outside. I took a breath and stepped forward to greet everyone. Im Miawam. As I spoke, the faces of the guests mirrored the reaction in the live chat. WTF, why is she here? Isn't she the one all over the trending page right now? And she's already on a show? Who's this? Bad vibes. I just wanted to watch a fun show and now I have to see her. Good thing my boy Ethan isn't here, or she'd get exactly what she wants. A total nobody but loves to clout chase. The negative comments piled up. A lot of Ethan Zhao's fans had caught wind of my appearance and, apparently not satisfied with flooding my ex-formerly Twitter mentions, decided to continue the pile-on here. This was exactly what the show's producers wanted. Hate watching is still watching. I guess I technically had a bit of buzz now, even if it was all borrowed. The other guests were civil but cool toward me. I wasn't focused on them though. The ghostly energy in this place was so thick, I started to wonder if I'd come to film a show or walked straight into a haunted house. I was born with the ability to see ghosts. To keep me alive, my parents sent me to live with my great-grandfather for over a decade. My great-grandpa is a master of the arcane arts. He's technically my grandfather's uncle, but he's around my grandpa's age, in his late 60s and still sharp as a tack. Unfortunately, very few of his descendants inherited his gift. The moment I was born, he had his eye on me. One guest still hadn't arrived. I folded my arms and waited for the last poor soul of the day. While I waited, I managed to find out from a crew member, out of the camera's view, that the show had intentionally picked a remote, desolate location and built the set here for maximum effect. The story goes that decades ago, a bizarre incident happened here. All the residents of a small village were massacred by robbers in a single night. Ever since, the place has been rumored to be haunted. The producers saw the potential in that backstory and spent a fortune building an escape room set here. Even in broad daylight, the ghostly aura was incredibly strong. My expression was complicated. The show's producers had really hit the jackpot with this location. A Maybach pulled up outside. A long leg emerged, followed by a man in casual attire. When I saw his face, I raised an eyebrow. The producers really knew how to get clicks. It was none other than my rumored lover, Ethan Zhao. Now the other guests' faces were priceless. The live chat was probably exploding. The ratings were no doubt skyrocketing. I bet the producers were grinning from ear to ear. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Leo, the youngest, went up to greet him. They were clearly close. The others followed suit, calling out, "Ethan." How could I pass up a chance to ride this wave? I'd give the producers the drama they wanted. I politely added my own Ethan. As expected, the live chat must be losing its mind. A fresh wave of Ethan's fans was probably flooding in to curse me out right now. I don't know if I imagined it, but Ethan seemed to glance at me for a second. Then he ruffled Leo's hair and turned to greet Laura. "Laura, long time no see. Ethan, you came too. Perfect. You have to protect me later if things get scary," Laura laughed. Ethan smiled warmly. "Of course, Laura." There was a 10-year age gap between Laura and Ethan, so no one suspected any romance between them. Besides, they had worked together before and were on good terms. The director's voice boomed through the speakers. "Welcome, everyone. Today's escape room theme is Escape from Red Hollow Village. Please line up and put on your blindfolds to enter." Lining up. The order was going to be interesting. Leo, the thrill seeker, volunteered to go first. Kevin followed right behind him, then said to the veteran actress, "Laura, you can stand behind me. I'll protect you." Laura chuckled and pulled Bella by forward. "Bella, you go ahead of me. Don't be scared." Bella, who cultivates an innocent, damsel in distress persona, was the picture of modesty. "Laura, you should go first. I'm not that easily scared." Laura didn't argue. In the end, only Ethan and I, the two people in the middle of a scandal, were left at the back. Bella's expression faltered for a moment, then she smiled sweetly. "Mia, would you like to come up to the front?" "No thanks. I like being in the back. I'll go last." "Ethan, why don't you stand behind Laura?" Bella suggested considerately. Ethan seemed to be thinking about something, then suddenly said, "I'll be last." Being the gentleman he was, he couldn't let a woman be the very last one in line. In the live chat, OMG did Mia do that on purpose, standing at the back because she knows Ethan is a total gentleman. OMG Mia, you two-faced snake, get away from Ethan. Stop trying to leech off him. Ethan is such a good guy, I'm crying. I didn't care. I just stood behind Bella, and then Ethan stood behind me. A staff member brought over blindfolds. Once they were on, I couldn't see anything except a faint glimmer of light. Please place your hands on the shoulders of the person in front of you and slowly enter the escape room. As I placed my hands on Bella's shoulders, I felt another pair of hands gently rest on mine. After we entered the room, the door slammed shut with a bang, and creepy music started playing. An electronic voice announced, "Players, you may now remove your blindfolds." When I took mine off, the room was lit by just enough faint light to see. The eerie music was right in my ear, and a cold draft blew past. The other guests were getting spooked. This is way too scary, right? I glanced around. The ghostly energy was so thick it was practically overflowing. Wow, it's packed in here, I said instinctively. Not only was it dark, but a heavy ghostly presence swirled around me. I could clearly see ghosts wandering nearby. Their dead, lifeless eyes stared at us, a group of intruders reeking of life. I started to suspect this wasn't an escape room, but a buffet for the dead. Mia, what are you talking about? There are only 6 of us. What do you mean packed? Kevin Zhang frowned as he spoke. The pop star clearly looked down on a C-lister like me and was the first to call me out. The point of this escape room was to capture the terrified expressions on the faces of these normally glamorous celebrities. So in addition to the numerous cameras hidden in the room, each of us was also wearing a microphone. There were, indeed, only 6 living people in here. But we had, indeed, walked into a nest of ghosts. It was extremely crowded, and I was honestly impressed. The show's cameras were broadcasting live. The chat was probably full of my haters and casual trolls. What was Mia trying to do with that comment? Does she think she's being funny? OMG, why is that woman standing next to our Ethan? Ethan, run. That woman is trying to use you for clout. Kevin's the best. He saw right through that fake girl. Don't put up with her crap, call her out. Because Ethan and I, the 2 people currently trending online, were in the same live stream, the show's popularity was soaring. Several related topics were already trending. Just then, a sinister female voice echoed from above. 50 years ago, a band of robbers came to Red Hollow Village. They burned, pillaged, and plundered, committing every evil act imaginable. Not a single villager escaped. 50 years later, 6 new visitors have arrived in Red Hollow Village. Will you be able to escape this time? The voice, combined with the creepy music and the perfectly timed cold draft, made a few of the guests huddle closer to one another. I didn't move, deliberately keeping some distance from Ethan. If I wanted to survive in this industry, this rumor with Ethan had to be cleared up, period. Ethan Zhao was a legend. He debuted at 17 and was now 27. In 10 years, nearly every movie he starred in was a box office smash. He had a face you couldn't find a single flaw with, and on top of that, he could actually act. In a decade, he'd won over everyone from teenage girls to their mothers. He was a true A-lister. The scandal between us was a complete accident. I had just wrapped up a role as a supporting character in a modern drama. The day before yesterday, after my flight landed, I checked into a nearby hotel for the night. I'm not one to skimp on comfort, so I booked a 5-star suite. Then I discovered there was a lust ghost in the hotel, hovering outside the suite across the hall. Lust ghosts love to drain a man's life force to boost their own energy. It looked like the guy in the opposite room had a powerful life force, a prime target. But since it was happening right under my nose, I couldn't just let it be. So, in the spirit of doing a good deed without seeking recognition, I went out, loitered in front of his door for a bit, and took care of the ghost. Who would have thought the person staying there was Ethan Zhao? Last night, some unscrupulous paparazzi released a video of Ethan and me, both dressed in black, leaving the hotel one after the other. They even used their inside sources to get the security footage of me lingering outside Ethan's door. The security camera couldn't see the ghost, so the footage just showed me wandering around, muttering to myself. And that's why I was trending today. Could you believe it? I did a good deed and got dragged through the mud for it. The worst part is, I only found out who was in that room from the trending topics myself. What kind of cosmic joke was this? Fortunately, I'm good at letting things go. Let's look for clues. Since the mission is to escape Red Hollow Village, we should be looking for an exit and a key. The man standing not far from me suddenly spoke. His clear voice sounded exceptionally sexy in the dim environment. No wonder his fans were crazy about him. Bellaby chimed in, Ethan's right. We should look for clues first. So, the group began to carefully examine the wall under the dim light. It was covered with photos, arranged in chronological order. Some of the photos showed faces, presumably the villagers from the game's lore. Their faces in the pictures were pale and stiff, unsettlingly so. There were even photos of their dead bodies. The causes of death were bizarre: beheaded, dismembered, bleeding from all 7 orifices. A wave of unspeakable dread washed over everyone. These photos look a little too real, don't they? Kevin drew in a sharp breath. Leo, the youngest and most adventurous, grinned. Kevin, this is what makes it fun. I silently looked at the wall, which had who knows how many ghosts hanging on it, and nodded in agreement. It was pretty fun. Exciting even. Just then, a sharp, frantic scream pierced the air. It was Bella. Everyone looked over to see her covering her eyes and stumbling backward, her voice trembling. The person in that photo moved. She had watched as the person bleeding from all 7 orifices in the photo slowly grinned at her. The inside of their wide-open mouth revealing blood that was dark red, almost black. Bella, you must have seen it wrong. How could a person in a photo move? Leo asked. Laura also offered a word of comfort. Bella, if you're scared, just hide behind us. This was the award-winning actress's first reality show. Although she and Ethan were both big names in the industry, Ethan was in a league of his own when it came to online traffic. At this point, even she needed a show like this to boost her popularity. Projecting a calm, caring big sister image was what she was aiming for. When Bella finally managed to open her eyes and look up, she saw that the photo was exactly as it had been before. It was as if she had imagined the person in it smiling at her. The clues on this wall say that the village chief of Red Hollow is the person who knows everything. The next clue should be in his house. Leo, who was clearly experienced with these games, spoke up. He must play them a lot. I blinked, my eyes meeting those of the 7-orificed ghost who had just scared Bella. Just as he had with her, he slowly stretched his bloody mouth into a wide grin, waiting for me to shriek. But I didn't give him the satisfaction. I just stared back at him motionless. Eventually, I realized that this was his only trick. I looked away disappointed. This ghost wasn't very good at his job. At the end of the day, an escape room is just a game. For the 6 of us, the only difference now was whether we were playing against humans or ghosts. No big deal. The others thought Leo's analysis made sense. The information on the wall mentioned the village chief's house more than once, so they agreed the next scene was likely there. But there are so many rooms up ahead. Which one is the chief's house? Kevin asked. The set the production team built wasn't huge, but being inside felt completely different from looking at it from the outside. Once you were in it, you got the illusion of it being endless. The chief's house should be marked, right? Leo said, taking the lead. The tense atmosphere made the others afraid to fall behind. I wasn't in a hurry, so I leisurely followed at the back. Suddenly, the person in front of me seemed to slow down, turning slightly to say in a low voice, "Stay close." Ethan was the show's biggest ratings draw. His every move would be magnified and analyzed. My eyes widened in mock alarm. My body instinctively took a step back as I replied with exaggerated politeness. Ethan, don't worry about me. I'm brave. I like being in the back. Ethan paused, then seemed to let out a soft chuckle in the darkness. All right. The live chat was already having a meltdown. I knew it. Mia walked at the back on purpose. Ethan, wake up. She's a snake. How are you a grown man and not as sharp as Kevin? Ethan is just a gentleman. He's so patient, even when he's on a show with a total leech. Why hasn't Mia been kicked out of the industry yet? OMG, this episode is so scary. Chinese folk horror is the GOAT. With Leo leading the way, we quickly found the village chief's house. Leo reached out to push the door open, but Ethan suddenly stepped forward. Leo, let me go in first and check it out. With that, he stepped inside. It was called the chief's house, but it was really just a single room, though the set design was incredibly realistic. Inside were various pots, pans, a clay brick bed, and some vintage-looking clothes. On the table sat a family portrait of the chief's family. In the photo, the chief sat in the middle grinning. Strangely, in a family photo, some people were smiling while others had grim expressions. But without exception, every face was an unnatural, deathly pale. The photo also included a bride in a red wedding dress, standing next to a young man. They looked to be the chief's son and daughter-in-law. The picture was probably taken on the day of the chief's son's wedding. It was both realistic and creepy. Outside, the director watching the monitor was already shouting that the props team deserved a bonus tonight. The props this time are so professional. It really looks like an old village house, Kevin said with a laugh. His laugh lightened the mood a bit. Laura also smiled. The production team really went all out. This set is so terrifying, they didn't even consider us middle-aged folks. Bella took the opportunity to chime in. Laura, you're joking, right? You look exactly the same as when I first saw you on TV. Maybe even more beautiful. Ask Ethan if you don't believe me. Ethan, having been called out, smiled and said, Laura is still very young. Maybe in our next project, she could play my little sister. Now that was a smooth, high EQ answer. I was impressed. No wonder he was so famous. I bet the hashtag #EthanJahaEQ would be trending soon. As they chatted and laughed, they seemed to have forgotten I was even there. This was another common tactic on reality shows: isolation. If you don't speak and don't have any standout moments, you'll just get cut from the final edit. Just then, with a loud bang, the door slammed, and a figure stood in the doorway. Everyone stared and realized it was the village chief from the photograph. In the dim light, the chief was slightly overweight, his face as white as paper. The lines on his face were deep, especially the wrinkles around his eyes, and his forehead was slightly darkened. The sudden appearance of such a figure startled everyone, including the audience watching the live stream. In the chat, "Whoa, that NPC is terrifying. Bad vibes be gone. Bad vibes be gone. This episode is seriously something else. The live stream alone is this scary. That chief's makeup is so on point. I'm slacking off at work and almost screamed in my office. Mom, I'm scared. Wach. Chat. Don't use me as a shield. I'm scared too. I squinted at the person who had just entered, my eyes glinting. Before any of us could speak, his gaze swept over each of us. Are you the visitors who arrived today? He asked suddenly. His voice carried a chilling coldness. Everyone he looked at felt a draft seep into their bones. Except, probably, for Ethan. I had confirmed it earlier. He possessed a rare constitution brimming with positive energy. Such people were coveted by some ghosts, but seen as natural enemies by others. A little cold draft like this wouldn't affect him much. Ethan spoke up. Yes, we're today's visitors. The chief glanced at him and frowned. Clearly, despite Ethan's handsome face, he wasn't a favorite of the NPC before us. The light overhead flickered, and the ethereal, sinister female voice returned. Today is the joyous wedding day of the son of Red Hollow's village chief. The chief will invite the 6 guests from afar to a wedding banquet. A wedding banquet? What kind of plot twist was this? Didn't the story say everyone in Red Hollow was dead? Even if there was a banquet, it shouldn't be a wedding feast. But the chief suddenly grinned. Wait here. Then the door closed and the figure vanished. What's going on? Kevin was baffled. Didn't they say everyone was dead? How can there be an NPC? Leo suddenly shouted, his mind racing. I get it. The villagers of Red Hollow all died 50 years ago, but we've just met the chief and he's hosting a wedding. That means we've traveled back in time 50 years. A time travel scenario? Ethan smoothly continued the line of thought. Then our mission, to escape Red Hollow Village, is more accurately about finding a way to travel back to the present. This analysis left the audience's heads spinning again. What? It's a time travel plot too? We just started and I already feel like my brain isn't big enough for this. How did they time travel? Go Leo, my boy. Mwah. What's Mia doing just standing there? Is she trying to pull the lazy, slacker routine? Whatever the case, based on the clues they had and the creepy background music, I could see the faces of the people next to me turning a little pale. The only exception was Leo, the self-proclaimed thrill-seeker. For some reason, I suddenly felt like laughing, and I did. Mia, what are you laughing at? Kevin looked at me annoyed. I put on my most sincere expression. Nothing. I just think this escape room is really interesting. My face showed no trace of fear. I was completely calm and collected. Kevin was taken aback by my demeanor and was momentarily speechless. If you think it's so interesting, then help us figure a way out, he finally managed. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow again. Getting out was simple. The problem was there were too many people. Dealing with them would be a hassle. But for now, I pointed at the photo on the table. On a joyous wedding day, why does the bride look like her husband just died? At my words, Everyone took a closer look at the faces in the photo. It was true the bride's expression was incredibly forced. Maybe she doesn't like the groom? Bella guessed. Of course she didn't. The camera zoomed in on the photo. The director outside was a bit puzzled. He turned to the assistant director. Did we have this in the prop list? The assistant director replied, I guess so? Where else would it have come from? Another bang. The door opened again. It was the same gloomy-looking village chief. He opened his mouth, revealing a set of yellowed teeth. One of you, the chief paused, must stay behind and become my daughter-in-law. What the hell? Everyone froze. A solo mission? There were 3 women present. Laura was a big star, but she didn't seem very brave. Unless she volunteered, forcing her into this would bring trouble from both the network and the other guests. Bella suddenly spoke up. Mia, you seem pretty brave. Why don't you take this solo mission? Kevin immediately chimed in. Yeah, Mia. You go with the chief, and we'll come rescue you later. Leo also joined in on the fun. Mia, you up for it? If not, I can dress up as a girl. I didn't really know Leo, and he seemed more innocent than the others, not picking up on their tone. He even muttered, why does this chief only want a daughter-in-law? Doesn't he have a daughter? I could marry into the family. In the live chat, his mom fans were wailing, our baby boy is all grown up and ready to be married off. I chuckled, about to say something, but the chief's eyes scanned my face for a moment before he pointed at me and said, not her. She's got that foxy look about her. Clearly the unfaithful type. My son would never marry a woman like that. Question mark. You're a ghost and you're throwing personal insults? You're dead meat. The viewers in the livestream chat were amused. Yo, this NPC has good judgment. Knows what kind of woman to avoid. LMAO, Leo seems so disappointed he's not a girl, hahaha. Is this part of the script? Feels kind of disrespectful to women. Not to be mean, but Mia really does have that kind of look. Mia deserves it, deserves it, deserves it. Mia Goo, get out of showbiz. The chief's comment drew everyone's attention to my face. Say what you will, but I'm not about to complain about the face my parents gave me. Just then, the chief pointed his rough, grimy finger at Bella. Her. She's got wide hips. Looks like she'd be good for childbearing. The expression on Bella's face froze. Another trending topic was probably about to be born. Hashtag Bella by good for childbearing. In the dead silence, I let out an indelicate snort. Bella, likely embarrassed, shot me a glare. Mia, what are you laughing at? He's complimenting your figure. I think so too. I said with such sincerity that Bella was at a loss for words. The chief didn't care what we were saying. He stared menacingly at Bella and asked in a low, ghostly voice, are you unwilling to marry my son? His gaze was enough to drain the color from Bella's face. She reached out and clutched the sleeve of Ethan's shirt beside her. I am scared. That small gesture didn't escape the eyes of the livestream audience. Some of Ethan's fans were already triggered. Bella wasn't me, she was a popular starlet with a solid fanbase. Her fans flooded the chat, explaining that their idol was just terrified. Others, maybe just casual viewers, started shipping them as a couple. But on screen, Ethan almost immediately sidestepped, subtly shaking her hand off his sleeve without making it look awkward. I slowly looked toward the door. Isn't your daughter-in-law right there? Following my gaze, everyone, including the cameras, turned toward the doorway. The first thing that came into view was a pair of red shoes embroidered with golden mandarin ducks. Slowly moving up, we saw a pair of deathly pale ankles, a grand red wedding dress, and an equally pale face. But this bride had bright red lipstick smeared on her lips, and her eyes were vacant. The eerie music continued to play. The bride's entrance was breathtaking, in a heart-stopping, terrifying way. She was expressionless and silent, standing there like a soulless marionette, her stillness exuding an unsettling creepiness. The others, however, were thoroughly freaked out. Live chat. Damn, that bride is terrifying. Ah, Kevin, protect me. I'm telling you, Chinese folk horror is the GOAT. My God, when did that bride even get there? Whoa, am I the only one who noticed that while everyone else jumped, Mia was just smiling? Is she fearless or what? Gotta say, Mia's got nerves of steel. She got dragged through the mud all day and can still show up on a reality show like nothing happened. No offense intended, bad juju, stay away. Meanwhile, the director outside was lost in thought again. Did I schedule this NPC? A gust of wind blew past. The once bright sky suddenly turned a gloomy gray. A few staff members subconsciously hugged their arms. It was the middle of summer. Why was it so chilly outside? Back in the escape room, the chief slowly turned to look at the woman in the red dress, then turned back to us and said matter-of-factly, I have 2 sons. She can be my second daughter-in-law. I had no words. Bella was terrified, but she still believed this was all part of the show. She was trying to convince herself to just do the solo mission. It was just that the show's NPCs were exceptionally creepy. As she was timidly stepping forward, I suddenly interjected. Chief, since today is the wedding of your eldest son and his bride, it's not customary to hold weddings for 2 sons at the same time. Why don't we have a drink at the banquet first, and then we can discuss your second son's marriage? I didn't have a major beef with Bella. Her team had just planted a few negative stories about me, that's all. In the entertainment world, there's a term for it: suppression. When I first debuted, my hyper-ambitious agent signed me with grand promises, boasting that with my face, I'd be an A-lister in 3 years. Later, a producer did take a liking to my face. He said if I was good to him, he'd give me plenty of resources. I have a temper, so I punched him and walked out. Problems followed immediately. My screen time on a show I had already filmed was cut, and my lines were edited into gibberish. Then, all sorts of vague scandals about me were leaked, causing another firestorm online. Compared to all that, what Bella's team did was nothing. Bella probably thought I was just trying to hog the camera. She bit her lip and said, No, it's fine. It's just a solo mission. I think I can handle it. A solo mission meant solo screen time. Her popularity was decent, and she wanted to use this show to gain some new fans. I didn't want to get involved, but if she was taken away alone, she could get tainted by too much ghostly energy or be scared out of her mind. If something happened to her, it would be a huge mess. I narrowed my eyes. If it's a solo mission, you can do it later. Why don't we go to the banquet and look for clues first? The chief's gaze fell on my face. His eyeballs seemed to roll around in their sockets as he considered it. After a long moment, his pale, purplish lips moved. Fine. We'll go to the banquet first. No one expected there to actually be a wedding banquet set up inside the escape room. The NPC led the way, and the rest of us followed slowly behind. The path felt unnervingly long. The corridor was narrow, only wide enough for one person, so we walked in single file. The lighting grew dimmer, with only a faint glow to see the path ahead. We could barely see anything else. As we were walking, I suddenly heard someone behind me call my name. Mia. It was Ethan. His voice was always highly recognizable. I instinctively answered, Yeah? Where are you? Ethan asked. When Ethan called my name, the 4 people ahead of me also stopped. Leo's voice came from the front. What's wrong, Ethan? I answered Ethan's question at the same time. I'm right in front of you. When we left the chief's house, Ethan had, as usual, acted the gentleman, letting everyone else go ahead while he brought up the rear. Then who's behind me? Ethan's voice was still steady, but his words were chilling. Ethan, is there someone extra behind you? Leo's excited voice came from ahead. This is getting intense. Laura's voice also chimed in. Maybe we should count off. Good idea, Leo said, calling out 1. Kevin, Laura, and Bella followed with their numbers. When it was my turn, I said 5. Ethan's 6 came right after. A moment later, from behind Ethan, a faint female voice whispered 7. The 4 people in front gasped in unison. They tried to look back, but the light was too dim and Ethan was tall enough to block their view. I turned and glanced behind Ethan. In my line of sight, a small figure had appeared. A young woman with bare feet, a deathly pale face and disheveled hair. Unlike the bride in the red dress, this ghost was dressed in white. There was a red mark around her neck, and a thick rope hung from her front. She was a hanging ghost. Ethan started to turn around, but I instinctively grabbed him. Don't turn around. I pulled him forward, switching places with him. You go ahead. Ethan's positive energy was strong, so it would be hard for the female ghost to latch onto him, but he was still a normal person. Ethan, what's going on back there? Leo's voice came again. Want to switch places with me? Ethan seemed to be thinking about something, a hint of a smile in his voice. No need. There's an NPC with me back here. I'm quite safe. I didn't see anything wrong with his statement, but I forgot that while the others couldn't see clearly due to the lighting, the show's cameras were still rolling. They captured my and Ethan's actions and expressions perfectly for the live stream. Is he smiling? It's been 3 years, our boy is finally smiling again. When Bella grabbed his sleeve, he shook her off immediately, but didn't Mia just grab his hand? Ethan, you're being played. Well, look at Mia being so protective. She was worried the NPC would scare Ethan and told him not to turn around? Total girlfriend material. Are you guys focusing on the right thing? Didn't anyone see how terrifying that NPC in white is? Mom, protect me, ah. Normally, ghosts and spirits don't let ordinary people see them, so cameras can't record them either. But as luck would have it, I did a quick mental calculation and realized that today was the th anniversary of the Red Hollow villagers' deaths. That's why the ghostly energy here was so incredibly strong today, strong enough for even the cameras to capture the ghosts. The nationwide audience probably had no idea that the NPCs they were seeing weren't alive. Back at the production base, the director was freaking out. Where did this other NPC come from? Who arranged this? Who's messing with my show behind my back? The staff around him didn't dare answer. They looked up at the sky, which was getting darker and darker, even though it was only noon. Combined with the fact that they were filming a horror show, some people were understandably getting spooked. I now had a harmless little ghost trailing behind me, and I was trying my best to ignore the pairs of greedy eyes lurking in the shadows. This place was overflowing with resentment and malice. The production team must have had some seriously bad luck to choose this spot. Leo, who was walking up ahead, suddenly asked, "Is the set really this big? I feel like we've been walking for a long time." Kevin, behind him, agreed. Yeah, it's been almost 10 minutes, right? He still hadn't realized what was happening and shouted to the village chief walking a short distance ahead. "Chief, are we almost at the banquet?" Then, as if realizing something else, he asked, "Chief, why isn't the banquet at your own house?" That question made everyone pause. The village chief slowly turned his head, a strange smile on his face. "We live separately. My son lives up ahead." Right after he said that, the path we were on began to widen. When their feet touched soft earth, Leo suddenly stopped, his voice trembling. Something doesn't feel right. When he stopped, the others did too. The female ghost behind me didn't break in time, and bumped into my back. I turned around, helped the dazed ghost steady herself, and casually picked a stray piece of dry grass out of her hair. The ghost looked up at me blankly, then took another step forward, probably trying to get closer to me because of the strong ghostly aura I carried. I declined her advance. The people behind Leo slowly looked forward and saw that a real doorway had appeared, adorned with bright red lanterns and red couplets, exuding a faint smell of decay. The most absurd part was that inside, there were over a dozen tables, each one filled with people, if you could call them people. Does a normal escape room have this many NPCs? Laura, the usually poised and steady actress, asked, her voice trembling. Leo's voice was shaking too. Laura, I've never seen anything like this. They were finally realizing that there was something very, very wrong with this escape room. There was no way the production team could have silently crammed this many people into the set they built. Nor could they have just appeared out of thin air, right? And looking at their eyes, what kind of normal NPCs were these? If Chinese actors had this level of skill, horror movies wouldn't constantly be panned as trash. Ghosts? Finally, I saw the few people who had been following the chief scramble backward in terror. I had been at the very back, but now they were all rushing past me. Only Ethan, who was in front of me, didn't move. As a result, the female ghost behind me was suddenly exposed to their view. Mia, be behind you. There's a ghost. Director, we want out. They screamed at the top of their lungs, right where the cameras could see them. Kevin pulled out the walkie-talkie the show had given them and yelled into it, but there was no response. According to the rules, The walkie-talkie could be used once to ask the production team for a clue if they were stuck. But now, there was no one on the other end. It wasn't just them. The production team outside was going crazy too. The moment they saw the dozen or so tables packed with NPCs, the director and staff knew something was wrong. People in this business tend to be a little superstitious, but at the end of the day, aren't we all supposed to be science-believing successors of socialism? The director made a quick decision. Cut the live stream. The staff member who received the order replied half a minute later, his voice on the verge of tears. Director, the live stream won't turn off. The entire production team was in chaos. Thinking of the high-profile celebrities trapped inside, the director gritted his teeth and tried to call the police, but now even his phone couldn't get a signal. We're screwed. I looked at the menacing ghosts on one side and Ethan, who was still standing motionless on the other. I wanted to pull him back behind me, but when I reached out, I couldn't move him. Ethan turned his head. What are you doing? I silently retracted my hand. I like standing in the front now. Ethan. I don't know what he was thinking, but he actually listened and took a step back. He didn't go behind me, though he stood right beside me. The creepy music from above had stopped at some point. The village chief across from us finally dropped his act. He chuckled darkly. You should all stay. It's been a long time since we've had so many living people here. More screams erupted from behind us. Bella and the others were desperately trying to run back the way they came, probably hoping to escape through the entrance door. But they hadn't realized that this was no longer an escape room. As far as the eye could see, the surroundings were empty and desolate. It was a real village. I realized the ghosts here were even more powerful than I had imagined. The live stream had exploded. Waves of viewers were flooding in, all asking what the hell was going on. The plot had completely diverged from the production team's script. I was about to say something, but the ghost chief suddenly pointed at me with his yellowed fingernails. If you agree to be my concubine, I'll spare your life. ? Seriously? Just a minute ago you were slandering me for being unfaithful, and now you want me as your side piece? You've been dead for decades and you're still a pig? My fists were clenched. But I knew I wasn't just being targeted because of my face. I was born with a quality that ghosts covet. I only grew up safely because my great-grandfather protected me. This chief must have sensed my unique spiritual constitution. The ghost's oppressive aura washed over us. The female ghost behind me started to tremble. I felt a surge of frustration. What are you afraid of him for? No wonder you're such a scaredy cat. The scaredy cat ghost continued to tremble. Mia, why don't you try to negotiate with him? See if he'll let us go. Bella's voice came from behind Kevin, where she was hiding. They had run back a short way, but were scared back by all the ghostly phenomena. The air was filled with the sinister laughter of the evil spirits. The lead ghost heard Bella's words and gave a wicked smile. As long as one of you is willing to stay behind, I'll let the others go. These people had no experience dealing with ghosts, especially not one reeking of bad karma like this one. He was full of lies. You couldn't believe a single word. Mia, why don't you just agree to it? Bella's voice piped up again. I suddenly laughed, glancing toward the camera. These ghosts had enveloped the entire set and cut off all communication, but for some reason, they had left the cameras running. But the others probably thought the cameras were off, which meant their reactions now were their true selves. In a life or death situation, why bother pretending? Why me? I asked slowly. He said one person has to stay, but he didn't specify who. It could be you. If you can't decide, we could draw lots. As I said this, I looked at each of them. Their faces were all a uniform shade of pale. In the face of death, many reactions are understandable. But when Bella heard my words, she was on the verge of a breakdown, crying and shouting. You're the most irrelevant one here. That ghost even said he wants you as his concubine. Who else would it be? Kevin chimed in, she's right. I can't die, I have so many fans. My career is just getting started. A two-faced snake like you deserves to die, Mia. Who did I ever double-cross? I quirked my lips into a smirk. Bella, he also said he wanted you as his daughter-in-law just now. So what? I'm irrelevant, so I deserve to die. I'll stay. The man beside me suddenly spoke. Everyone froze. I turned to look at Ethan. He remained as calm as ever, showing no fear. I gave him a suspicious glance. The evil ghost in front of us watched our infighting, his grin growing wider and wider, until Ethan's unexpected offer. The chief looked at the man radiating positive energy, and a flicker of disgust crossed his face. Ethan. Laura finally found her voice and cried out. As a colleague on relatively good terms with Ethan, Laura knew a bit about his family background. His family was probably already trying to figure out a way to rescue him. If anything happened to Ethan here, even if the rest of them made it out alive, they would be in huge trouble. At that moment, the other ghosts who had been sitting at the tables suddenly stood up and gathered behind the chief, including the bride and groom. I saw that the bride had shackles on her ankles. Tears of blood streamed down her face. Each of these ghosts was terrifying in its own way. Some had probably been beheaded, and were now cradling their own heads, giggling. The people around me were too scared to speak. I could understand them, but even the white-robed ghost girl following me was terrified. I've changed my mind. You're all staying, the chief said, pointing at us with a low, ghostly voice. Ah! Screams erupted as people scattered in every direction. I started running too. But at the end of the day, how can a human outrun a ghost? This year-old village was shrouded in darkness and gloom at every turn. I scanned my surroundings. A moment later, a ghost's laughter, shrill and annoying, echoed in my ear. I couldn't take it anymore. I closed my eyes and threw a punch. The laughter stopped abruptly. I shook my hand, my voice laced with impatience, yet somehow more menacing than theirs. I was already having a bad day at work, and I didn't bring any of my tools. So just bear with me. The ghost was still stunned. The next moment, I reached out and threw another punch, this time with too much force, knocking its head clean off. It rolled to my feet with a soft thud. I said without a trace of sincerity, "Sorry, I accidentally knocked your head off." Then I bent down, picked up the head, and whispered into its terrified eyes. "You're from Red Hollow Village? Looks like you killed a lot of people when you were alive. With karma this heavy, the 18th level of hell seems like a good fit for you." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw another ghost charging at me. I instinctively kicked the head in my hand, but I used too much force and the other ghost disintegrated into dust. I shook my hand again. I must have been out of practice for too long to have so little control over my strength. The livestream feed seemed to freeze for a second. Every camera was still broadcasting, following each of us survivors. In my feed, a sudden "holy crap" appeared in the chat, and then the floodgates opened. "Is that Mia? Can you actually physically hit a ghost?" "Of course not. Didn't you see Kevin try to fight back just now? He couldn't even touch them. Isn't it obvious? Mia is clearly not a normal person. Whoa, she knocked a ghost's head off with one punch. What kind of violent celebrity is this? Ah, she's so cool. Damn, this is terrifying. Ghosts are real. Where's the production team? What's going on? Their official account isn't responding. Are they playing dead? Grapevine says the production team is also out of contact." The commotion was huge and had attracted a lot of attention. I had no idea how much things were blowing up online. All I knew was that the ghosts in front of me were annoying. I must not have checked my horoscope today. I didn't bring any of my talismans, and now I was dealing with a bunch of ghosts asking for a death wish. I had a massive headache. This place had become a ghost nest decades ago, and over the years, it had bred a number of powerful spirits. After taking care of a few mindless ones, I went to find the others who had scattered. The first person I found was Ethan. His clothes were a bit disheveled, but he was mostly fine. I helped him up. "Are you okay?" Ethan turned to me. "I'm fine. What about you? Are you hurt?" I don't know if I was overthinking it, but Ethan didn't seem surprised to see me standing before him completely unscathed. I didn't really know the A-lister, but from our interactions so far, he at least had good manners. After I shook my head, he suddenly said, "By the way, about the other night, I never got to thank you." I paused. The other night he meant the hotel scandal. Of course, no one would actually think there was anything between me and Ethan. People online probably just assumed I was trying to seduce him. I didn't know how to respond to him bringing it up now. He continued, I've always run into strange things since I was a kid. I ran into something at the hotel the other night, too. Then it was suddenly gone. It turns out you were the one who helped. I didn't deny it. It was nothing, I said quietly. I didn't know who was staying in that room. There were too many ghosts around. I had to find the others quickly. Even though Ethan had strong positive energy, he was still just a normal person. I took off the bracelet I had been wearing for over 20 years and, without a second thought, put it on Ethan's wrist. You can borrow this. Give it back when we get out. Okay, thank you, the polite actor replied. We were speaking in riddles, and the livestream chat was once again stunned. Simple summary. There was no affair. Mia was loitering outside Ethan's door that night to perform an exorcism? I knew it. No celebrity would just dance around outside someone's door like that. So we yelled at the wrong person? Mia, I'm so sorry. What? You know, these two actually look pretty good together. Following the sounds, Ethan and I found Leo. He was being swarmed by several female ghosts, a completely different scene from what everyone else was experiencing. I finally managed to pull him away. The boy was a mess of tears and snot, hiding behind Ethan. Ethan, they were trying to pull my pants off. It was kind of funny. I couldn't help but laugh. It's because you're still a virgin. Taking your virginity can greatly increase a ghost's power. Leo. He looked like a wronged bride, hiding meekly behind Ethan. But I soon noticed that the female ghosts were also staring at Ethan with greedy eyes. They were held back only by the bracelet I had given him. I raised an eyebrow. You're a virgin too? Ethan, sha. Thank you, Mia. Now I know my boy Ethan is still a pure, chaste man. Thank you, Mia. Isn't Ethan 27 this year? Being a virgin at that age, could he be? Shut up, I don't want to hear it. Hey, are you guys focusing on the wrong thing? Their lives are on the line. With great effort, I managed to find Laura and Kevin. Along the way, I gained a die-hard fan. Leo's eyes were sparkling as he watched me. While I was busy beating up ghosts, he was in the back cheering me on. Go, Mia. Get him, get him. Watch your back. Left hook, right hook, leg sweep. Me fine, whatever. Finally, we found Bella. She was being chased by two ghosts who seemed to be toying with her just for fun. Bella, over here. Laura shouted, her voice filled with anxiety. When Bella saw us, she sprinted over. The ghosts behind her stopped playing around and lunged straight for her. I stepped forward, ready to fight them off. But as Bella rushed over, for some reason, she slammed right into me. She didn't just bump into me, she shoved me hard, sending me stumbling backward. Me? Question mark. The two ghosts were right in front of me. I was about to strike when I realized my footing was off. I hesitated for a second, and the next moment the ground beneath me gave way. I wanted to curse the heavens. I was falling. It was some kind of underground cellar. Before I fell, I heard their shouts of alarm. After I landed, all the sounds were suddenly cut off. But I wasn't too worried about the people above. I had just managed to draw a protective circle. As long as they stayed inside it, they would be fine for a while. What the hell was this place? As I stood up, the thick, cold air made me shiver. I found myself face to face with several powerful ghosts locked up down here. They were just shadowy blobs, not even recognizably human. I didn't move. They didn't move. So I offered them what I hoped was a friendly smile. But I forgot that I was still covered in the aura of the ghosts I had just dispatched. To put it simply, I reeked of killer intent. The powerful ghosts looked at me with what I could only describe as terror. Though I wasn't sure if those little red dots were their eyes. They couldn't even maintain a human form. How pathetic had their afterlife been? They were trembling. After a moment's hesitation, I slowly approached, crouched down and asked, "You guys wouldn't happen to be the legendary robbers who massacred the entire village, would you?" I saw the black masses bob up and down. So it was them. No wonder their karmic debt was even deeper than the ghosts of the villagers outside. My smile became even more harmless. Why don't you tell me what happened 50 years ago? Communicating with ghosts is a basic skill for people in my line of work. I'm only semi-professional, but I know enough. I squatted there listening for a long time, occasionally asking about their decades-long existence as ghosts, like an old lady gossiping at the village entrance. The powerful ghosts didn't dare resist, answering every question I asked. I pieced together the story and then asked with a grin, "I'll give you a chance. Want to get out?" They shook their heads frantically. They had none of the swagger they must have had when they slaughtered a village decades ago. I kept smiling. "It's not up to you." This was a cellar, a place completely enveloped and isolated by ghostly energy. I broke the seal with a single talisman. When I climbed back up, the scene was spectacular. 5 people were trapped in a small protective circle, too afraid to move, their cries and screams mixing together. What a lively scene. On the other side, all the ghosts of the village had gathered. As I scanned the crowd, I saw they were mostly male ghosts. Behind them followed a group of female ghosts, including the bride in the red dress and the not-so-bright ghost in white. They all had chains on their ankles. The malevolent ghosts were constantly attacking the circle I had created, and it was on the verge of collapsing. My reappearance was quite sudden. When the people in the circle saw me alive and well, they got excited. "Mia, you're alive. Mia, help us." It was a bit noisy. I dusted the dead grass off my clothes, then released the few powerful ghosts I had brought up with me. "All right, you're all bones from decades ago. If you insist on causing trouble now, let's get this over with. I'm in a hurry to clock off." I was anxious. If this dragged on any longer, it would actually be dark. The ghost chief saw me and narrowed his bloodshot eyes. "So what if you have a few tricks? You're just a woman. You've been dead for decades and you still look down on women?" I curled my lip then in full view of everyone, took 2 steps forward, teleported in front of the chief, and threw a punch that knocked his teeth out. "What's wrong with being a woman? Were you born from your father alone?" I grabbed him by the neck and pointed to the chained women behind him. "Your village used to traffic so many people. In your next life, you won't even be reincarnated as animals." With that, I landed another punch. In my hands, the terrifying village chief was nothing but a helpless punching bag. Red Hollow Village, 50 years ago, was a village that survived on human trafficking. The number of people they kidnapped, bought, sold, and killed was countless. The sins accumulated from generation to generation, and the village's luck finally ran out with the chief's generation. On the day the chief's son married a college student he had bought, a few desperate criminals showed up. A conflict broke out, and they ended up killing the entire village. They had guns and felt so invincible after the massacre that they stayed in the village for several days, right up until the 7th night. On the 7th night after their deaths, the villagers' vengeful spirits sought them out and killed them. After they died because of their own karmic debt and the immense bloodshed they had caused, these men also turned into powerful ghosts. But even as powerful ghosts, these gun-wielding killers were like newborn infants compared to the generations of evil that this entire village represented. It was a story of villains turning on villains. No one was innocent. The only tragic figures were the women who had perished in this village. Even after death, their souls were never free. The village's evil spirits finally realized I wasn't some little girl they could push around. I might have a strong ghostly aura, but my combat skills were off the charts. They wanted to use today's heavy energy to return to the world of the living and cause chaos? Well, I was about to give them a complimentary ticket to the afterlife. Seeing me treat their chief this way, the other ghosts charged at me, their howls terrifying, as if they were about to devour me whole. In the chaos, I thought I heard someone call my name, but I was too busy to pay attention. In full view of everyone, I bit my middle finger and drew a few symbols in the air. As I did, a golden light flashed, and a shimmering golden sword slowly materialized between my hands. The noise suddenly died down. Everyone stared at me, dumbfounded. Did Mia just pull a sword out of thin air? Leo asked in shock. No one answered him, but Bella's face turned a little pale. With the sword in hand, I swung it. The nearest ghost was burned by the pure spiritual energy from the blade, and let out a wail. There were so many ghosts. I'd be crazy to fight them all with my fists. Now, with the spirit sword in my grasp, I took out several of them with a single swing. The ghost chief, who had been on the receiving end of my punches just moments ago, finally understood that I was not a woman to be messed with. I didn't check my horoscope today. They didn't check theirs before deciding to cause trouble. Running into me was just their bad luck. But was there still time to escape? I watched them scramble to get out, but now the ones trying to escape Red Hollow Village were the ghosts themselves. I wasn't in a hurry to chase them. I smiled as I watched the ghosts run out, only to hit an invisible barrier and bounce back. I had casually set up a boundary when I first stepped into the real Red Hollow Village. I took the opportunity to begin a ritual, chanting a prayer for the dead. The surrounding yin energy began to gather, gradually forming a dense black fog. Then it slowly started to dissipate. My ritual was a threat to every ghost here. The severely injured chief ordered the chained women to attack me. They had no freedom in life, and even in death, they were still shackled, forced to do his bidding. They were victims who had died unjustly, with no karma staining their souls. They should have moved on to reincarnation right after death, but they were imprisoned here by the village's evil spirits, never finding peace. Now under my chant, the yin energy was slowly fading. These female spirits were no longer under the control of the evil ghosts. My sword flew toward the chains on their ankles. In an instant, the shackles that had bound them for decades shattered. They had died wrongful deaths, and their resentment was enough to turn them into powerful spirits. So when the chief gave his command, instead of attacking me, the female ghosts turned on their real demons. They relentlessly tore and bit at the other evil spirits, their resentment growing stronger and stronger. The evil spirits were no longer living beings, and there was a direct cause and effect between them. Even if the women killed them, it wouldn't affect their own path to the afterlife. I let the chaotic slaughter unfold, taking a moment to glance back at the unlucky humans who had come in with me. Other than looking a bit dazed, they were mostly fine. But we still had to get out of here quickly. The yin energy was too heavy. If normal people stayed here too long, it would seep into their bodies, and there was no telling what might happen. I continued my chant. The condensed ball of yin energy was pierced by my sword, and a large portion of it dissipated. A faint smell of blood filled the air. I looked up and saw that the evil spirits, realizing they couldn't get to me, were now targeting the ordinary humans. The protective circle I had set up earlier was weakening. A stream of red blood was spreading across the ground, heading straight for the group. It stopped at the edge of the circle and began to corrode the barrier. Mia, help us. Mia. Help. Ah. Their situation was just as dire. I clenched my jaw and, without hesitation, sent the sword flying towards them, shouting, "Ethan, use the blood from your middle finger." The sword stopped in front of Ethan. He understood immediately. He pricked his finger on the blade, and his blood was instantly absorbed. The newly invigorated sword swept out in a wide arc. The next second, the blood receded like a tide. Even I was a little impressed. Ethan's constitution was the kind that any practitioner of the arcane arts would drool over. My sword, having completed its task, zipped back to my side. The chief was practically bursting with rage. He lunged at me with his long nails, directing even more ghosts in my direction. I grimly cut my own hand, squeezing out more blood, and drew a talisman in the air. A red light flashed. As the ghosts approached, the talisman erupted with killing intent, and one by one, they were reduced to ash. My face grew pale, and I felt a little unsteady. I had used too much spiritual energy at once, and was starting to feel the strain. The chief, being the leader of these spirits, was burned but not completely destroyed. I gritted my teeth, went all in, and plunged the sword into the ground, using it as the center of a new formation. A golden light flared, and the surrounding yin energy vanished. The wails of the ghosts were deafening. A fierce wind kicked up dust and rocks. My long hair whipped around in the gale, and a trickle of blood slowly ran from the corner of my mouth. After what felt like an eternity, I suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, and the world fell silent. I wiped my mouth, then used the sword to pull myself up. I looked at the female ghosts. With their enemies gone, their resentment was also fading. The ghost in white came forward, once again trying to get close to me. I refused her again. "I'll send you on to your next lives," I said. "Try to be smarter next time." They looked at me, and as I chanted the prayer for the dead, their forms slowly became transparent and disappeared. With the yin energy gone, the place returned to its previous state as an escape room set. My body swayed, and just as I was about to collapse, a pair of hands caught me. Careful, a clear voice said. Ethan held me steady. I turned my head and saw that he was injured too. His beautiful hands were covered in cuts, bleeding freely. What a waste, I thought. But I couldn't say anything else. I lost consciousness and fell into darkness. When I woke up, I was in a private room in a hospital. The first thing I saw was my great-grandfather, leaning on his cane and staring at me. My parents stood beside him, along with my agent, who looked like she wanted to shrink into a corner. You're awake. I looked around and managed to croak. Great-grandpa, Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Before my parents could say anything, my spry great-grandpa started thumping his cane on the hospital floor. You still have the nerve to call me great-grandpa? You charged into a den of ghosts all by yourself. Who do you think you are, a Marvel superhero saving the world? I taught you since you were a child to run if you can't win, but you had to be a hero. You're lucky you didn't get yourself killed this time. Did you ever think about what would happen to me and your parents if something happened to you? We'd be burying our own grandchild. We worked so hard to raise you, not expecting you to take care of us. But now you want me to burn incense for you. I told you before, what's so great about the entertainment industry? If you weren't so lucky this time, you'd be dead. Do your parents not feed you? Can't your great-grandpa support you? From now on, don't you dare tell anyone you're my great-granddaughter. You're an embarrassment. My great-grandpa's tirade silenced my parents completely, but they didn't seem to have any intention of defending their weak daughter. I just closed my eyes and peacefully took the verbal assault. When the room finally fell silent and my great-grandpa and parents had left, my agent nervously approached. Mia, are you okay? Not dead yet. She let out a sigh of relief, then asked, So are you still planning to stay in the entertainment industry? I frowned. Ruby, you're acting a little weird today. She had never been this gentle with me. If she didn't reek of pure human, I would have thought she'd been possessed. You're from the Goo family? Why didn't you ever say anything? Ruby asked nervously. I understood. Oh, I said slowly. My parents don't want me in showbiz. They said if I insisted, I couldn't use any of their resources. And if I quit and wanted to live off them, I'd have to accept an arranged marriage with a stranger. Hearing this, Ruby's mind instantly concocted a whole saga of wealthy family drama. She looked at me with pity. I fell silent. No way, no way. Is someone actually feeling sorry for a capitalist's daughter? So, are you still going to stay in the industry? She asked again. Of course. Why not? Am I blacklisted or something? Ruby could no longer suppress the smile spreading across her face. You're a huge star. ? Ruby handed me my phone and filled me in on what had happened while I was unconscious, or rather, what had happened since I went on that show. First, after I passed out, everything returned to normal, and the police arrived. The production crew had also lost consciousness in the thick energy after losing contact. All the injured parties were taken to the hospital. The other celebrities on the show had various physical injuries, not to mention varying degrees of psychological trauma. The show may have run into real ghosts, but the live stream never stopped. My heroic image of taking down ghosts with one punch was recorded for all to see. The scenes of me materializing a sword from thin air and using it to create a ghost-slaying formation were also captured. The live chat had exploded. I had been unconscious for 2 days. In that time, most of the content from the live stream had been scrubbed from the internet, but my X account had gained tens of millions of followers. Yes, tens of millions. It was ridiculous. I used to have only a few 100,000 bot followers, and the rest were haters. The posts I had made a few days ago now had tens of thousands of comments and shares. But the content of their shares was a bit strange. Share this Miagoo and all demons and monsters will stay away. Share this Miagoo to protect your home and ward off evil. Share this Miagoo, and you'll pass your civil service exams and get into grad school. ? What the hell? Ruby was now looking at me like I was a priceless treasure. Mia, you should rest up. I've received several scripts from directors in the last few days. They think your image is perfect for a strong female lead in a fantasy series. You should think about it. I fell silent again. Ruby said, since you're okay, you should post a selfie to let your fans know you're safe. It was hard to believe I now had fans to report to. My old posts were usually just about my daily meals and other mundane things. When I was trending because of Ethan, my comments section was a war zone. But after the reality show incident, Ethan's fans had voluntarily deleted their old comments and were now actively defending my online space. Because I was now their idol's savior. The fans of the other celebrities were doing much the same. Leo had even posted on his own account that I was his idol, his adoration evident in his multi-paragraph essay. In contrast, the fans of Bella and Kevin were in an awkward position. Kevin had openly attacked me, and when the ghost chief proposed that someone stay behind, he and Bella had both said I deserved to die. But in the end, I saved their lives. And Bella, when I was about to save her, had shoved me behind her to be a decoy for the ghosts. She had no idea at the time that I could fight ghosts. In other words, she had tried to push me to my death. They thought the live stream had stopped in that situation, but it hadn't. It had recorded their true colors for everyone to see. In a life or death moment, a survival instinct is understandable, but they were public figures. The public backlash was swift. The tabloids never miss an opportunity to kick someone when they're down. The story about Bella's team demanding I be replaced, and then making me wear ugly makeup was leaked. Now the tables had turned, and Bella and Kevin were the ones getting dragged. I scrolled through my feed for a while, then took a selfie to report my safety as Ruby had suggested. The moment I posted it, the comments exploded. "It's Mia. Ah. So glad you're okay, Mia. Thanks for taking care of our Leo, Mia. Hope you get well soon. Thanks for taking care of our Ethan, Mia. Hope you get well soon. Thanks for taking care of our Laura, Mia. Hope you get well soon." Hey, where are Bella's and Kevin's fans? They're probably too ashamed to show their faces. Is this Mia with no makeup? How much effort did those old shows put into making you look ugly? I have no shame, I'll go first. Wife, make sure you rest well. For the first time, I felt what it was like to be famous. It was all a bit surreal. The production team sent their well wishes and a hefty compensation package not long after. The director cheerfully told Ruby that he would definitely invite me back to his show next time. It's worth noting that the horror-themed show was temporarily suspended for rectification. The next time I saw my adorable assistant was the day I was discharged from the hospital. After a few days of rest, I was finally ready to leave. My parents had ordered me to stay at home for a few days. My assistant came to pick me up. Her big, round eyes were shining as she looked at me, lowering her voice excitedly to ask, "Mia, can you really see ghosts?" I looked up, my gaze drifting to the space behind her. I pointed vaguely and whispered, "See? There's a little kid right there." My assistant looked in that direction and saw nothing, but she suddenly felt a cold draft. She let out a small shriek and ran to hug me. "Mia, are you serious? I'm a coward, don't scare me." I burst out laughing. "I'm just kidding. All right, stop messing around. Go handle my discharge papers." After my assistant went downstairs and took care of the paperwork, we walked out of the hospital together. But I had underestimated my newfound popularity. I was so used to being a C-lister that I thought I could just throw on a mask and walk out with my one assistant. Instead, we were ambushed by a swarm of paparazzi. "Mia, is it true that you were fighting ghosts on the show? Mia, who is your master? What do you have to say about Bella pushing you?" I remained silent. When Ruby arrived with a driver to rescue me, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. That day, I posted a single sentence on my social media. It was all special effects. "Everyone, please believe in science." Under the trending topic #MiaGoo believes in science, the comments section looked like this. "This woman is even trying to hide her true master identity. I'm crying. Yeah, believe in science. Right. Livestream special effects. I get it. Mia, protect me. I'm gonna ace my exams. Forget it. Let the world burn." Soon after leaving the hospital, I joined a new film crew. Ruby had picked the script for me. I was the female lead. To avoid going home to leech off my parents, I had no choice but to take the job. But I never expected the male lead to be Ethan Zhao. Ethan had been famous for years and rarely did TV shows, especially not a female-led series like this one. Most importantly, if I remembered correctly, this show had a romance plot. His fans were always nagging him to find a girlfriend, but that didn't mean they'd be happy to see him in a fake romance with just anyone, especially not me. Mia, I never got to properly thank you, Ethan said with a smile during the costume fitting. Are you free tonight? Let me treat you to dinner. I thought to myself, dinner is a bad idea. If we get photographed again, I'll never be able to clear my name. So I refused. But after that, things started to get weird. On set, Ethan would bring me breakfast every day. Sometimes he'd get me lunch and dinner too. When he treated the crew to afternoon tea, he'd remember that I liked my fruit tea with % sugar, light ice, and popping boba. The cake he ordered was from a place I had casually mentioned I liked once. Whenever I brought it up, Ethan would just blink his charming eyes and say he was repaying a debt of gratitude. I should have just had that dinner. We were in the same crew, and after the initial awkwardness, we got to know each other better. When the studio released the official cast photos, a ton of fans showed up, and some of them actually started shipping us as a couple. They called it a feast for the eyes. Because of the Emperor's attentiveness to me on set, many people speculated that he was pursuing me. Even Ruby started asking me indirectly if there was something going on between me and Ethan. She said if there was, I should tell her early so she could prepare a PR strategy. Ever since she found out about my family situation, Ruby was no longer the agent who used to threaten to put me on ice if I dated. Now her only fear was that one day I'd get tired of the industry and just quit. The show filmed for 5 months. I could feel Ethan's thoughtfulness. As a senior actor, he gave me a lot of advice on my acting, always gentle and humble. More than once, another actress on set asked me in a hushed tone, "Are you sure you're not dating Ethan?" I said no. She was extremely disappointed. She said the way Ethan treated me was completely different from how he treated everyone else. With others, even though Ethan was humble, there was always a sense of distance, a barrier that kept people at arm's length. I didn't really understand this vague description, so I tried not to think about it. After filming wrapped, I moved back into my apartment and became a hermit. Ruby had already found another script for me. Filming would probably start after the new year, so I needed to rest up. But before that, a top luxury jewelry brand contacted me, inviting me to be their spokesperson. Ruby was overjoyed and accepted on my behalf. When I went for the photo shoot, I realized the brand's CEO looked a little familiar. After we shook hands, he said, "Ms. Gu, long time no see. I tried to find your contact information before to express my gratitude, but you said it was just a small gesture and refused our gift. I had to resort to a business collaboration to get in touch." I forced a smile. "So it's you, Mr. Song." "That's right. It was the father of the little boy I had run into at the hospital. My wife has been wanting to treat you to dinner for a while. I wonder if you would grace us with your presence tonight, Ms. Gu?" This was the big boss of the brand. I sighed internally. In that case, it would be my honor. After dinner, as I was leaving the restaurant, my mind was still reeling. I had just had a meal with a family of 3. I had driven myself, so I politely declined the Song's offer to drive me home. Just as I was about to get in my car, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was Ethan. "Hello, Mia." A magnetic voice came from the other end. "Ethan, what's up?" Ethan was 3 years older than me. After we got to know each other, I started calling him Ethan like everyone else. "Turn around." I instinctively turned and saw Ethan, dressed all in black, standing not far away, holding his phone and smiling as he walked toward me. I was having drinks with a friend nearby and didn't drive. "Can you give me a ride? It's on the way." I was silent for a moment, then asked, "How do you know it's on the way?" He said, "I have a few places in the city. It might be on the way." I had never met a rich person who was more of a show-off than my own dad. Ethan got in the car. He had been drinking, but he wasn't drunk. I asked for his address. The place he mentioned was, in fact, not far. We made small talk on the way. As I focused on the road, I could feel his gaze fixed on my face. Soon I pulled over, but Ethan didn't seem to be getting out. I saw him reach into his coat pocket and pull out a small box, which he handed to me. "A New Year's gift for you." I opened it and found a necklace with a red rose pendant. I recognized this necklace. My mom had tried to buy it at an auction a few days ago, but was outbid. She felt the price had exceeded her budget, so she didn't bid any higher. Ethan, this gift is too expensive. I can't accept it, I said, pushing it back. Ethan said, "It's not expensive. You saved my life. It's the least I can do." I frowned. Ethan, even if you're repaying a debt, you already took great care of me on set. This really isn't necessary. I was about to say more, but the next second, Ethan leaned in close to me and chuckled. "Mia, have you ever heard of someone repaying a debt with red roses?" His question was so sudden that I didn't know how to react. Then he continued, "This red rose necklace symbolizes passionate love." "Are you confessing to me?" I finally managed to ask after a long pause. He smiled. "Yes, I'm confessing to you. Ms. Miyagu, would you be willing to be my girlfriend?" I had never seen this coming. I was completely stunned and had never considered this possibility. It took me a while to find my voice. "But you said you were repaying a debt." I was referring to all the care he had shown me before. He said, "Repaying with my body is also a form of gratitude." Ethan's voice was incredibly tender, and I felt something stir in my chest. But I had never thought about dating, so I stammered, "And no, I can't." "Why? I have a fiance." In a panic, I blurted out the first excuse that came to mind. Ethan's expression changed. "Afraid he wouldn't believe me," I added. "It's true. A childhood betrothal. His family used to be our neighbors. I really, really like him, and we're planning to get married at the end of next year." I don't know if it was my imagination, but after I said that, Ethan's expression changed again, becoming much more complicated. After I rejected Ethan's confession that day, we didn't contact each other again. We didn't even talk through the new year, except for a generic, mass-sent, Happy New Year text. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, my mom said, "Mia, your Uncle Zhao's family is coming to visit tomorrow. Make sure you clean yourself up." "Which Uncle Zhao?" "The one who used to live next door. You used to love playing with his younger son. You two even had a childhood betrothal. Don't you remember your little boyfriend? You know what they say, speak of the devil." I had just used my long-lost childhood friend as an excuse, and now he was showing up for a New Year's visit? You really can't just say things. Your great-grandpa even read your fortunes together back then. He said you were a perfect match, my mom continued, reminiscing about my childhood. There was indeed a childhood betrothal, but it was just a joke between kids, not to be taken seriously. I had forgotten the guy's name, only vaguely remembering that he was a handsome older boy. I spent most of my childhood at my great-grandpa's place and rarely came home. Most of the time, my parents would visit me there. Even if this childhood friend existed and I used to like him a lot, I didn't remember him now. I had a feeling tomorrow was going to be a blind date setup. But I didn't care. As it happened, the studio released some behind-the-scenes footage from the show today. The series I did with Ethan was set to premiere in a few days. Fans were cheering, saying I finally had a proper project of my own. Me? ? A little love, but not much, huh? That night, I stayed up late playing games and slept in until I was basically in a coma. When I woke up, I stumbled downstairs yawning, with zero regard for my public image. I could hear cheerful chatter from the living room while I was still on the stairs. I vaguely thought I heard Ethan's voice and assumed I was still half asleep, until my eyes focused on the group below. My dad, my mom, a strange aunt and uncle, and Ethan. "Ethan?" I froze. My mom spoke up. "Mia, what are you waiting for? Say hello. This is your uncle and Auntie Zhao, and your older brother, Ethan." I was dumbstruck. It was Auntie Zhao who spoke first, smiling. "Mia has grown so much. She's even prettier in person than online. Isn't the show Mia and Ethan did together airing soon? We'll have something to look forward to." I remembered this beautiful Auntie Zhao, but her words confirmed one thing. Ethan was my childhood fiancé, my older brother Ethan. At this moment, Ethan was dressed in designer clothes from a brand he endorsed, styled in a simple, parent-pleasing way, looking perfectly prim and proper. And me? I was a disheveled mess in a fluffy dinosaur pajama set and cat slippers. Kill me now. I finally understood why Ethan had given me such a complicated look when I told him about my childhood betrothal. He knew I was making it all up. It's hard to describe my mood right now. After mumbling a greeting, I threw out an excuse about needing to get ready and bolted upstairs. A while later, my phone vibrated. A message from Ethan. Come down. What are you hiding for? You didn't look embarrassing. You looked cute. I replied with 6 dots. Ethan. Want to see a movie? My new one. Of course I knew Ethan had a new movie out. It premiered on New Year's Day and was breaking box office records. In the end, I went out. My mom basically pushed me out the door, saying young people should spend more time together. In the car, I couldn't help but ask, why did you change your name? Ethan leaned over to buckle my seatbelt and chuckled softly. Ethan is my stage name. You win. Ethan's movie was a real tearjerker. When his character died at the end, I couldn't hold back my tears. He handed me a tissue and pulled me into his arms to comfort me. I'm here. It's okay. He had a faint, pleasant scent. I couldn't help but take a big whiff. So nice. No wonder the female ghosts were always after him. We left before the theater lights came up. Ethan was so famous that someone might recognize him even with a mask on once the lights were on. On the way back, Ethan took my hand. I froze. He turned and raised an eyebrow at me. Didn't you say we were getting married at the end of the year? Isn't it time we started working on our relationship? I stopped. I was just saying that the other day. Don't take it seriously. I was referring to marrying my childhood fiance at the end of the year. Could you believe it? The one time I make up a lie, it's right in front of the person I'm lying about. Ethan chuckled. So, have you had enough time to think about it? Are you going to accept my advances? At this point, I suddenly remembered something and stopped in my tracks. Did you know who I was from the beginning? You're just figuring that out now? You didn't change your name when you entered the industry. You look different from when you were a kid, but all I had to do was ask around to find out it was you. I never thought it was that simple. I stared at him. My memory of the little older brother Ethan from my childhood was fuzzy. I genuinely hadn't recognized him. Don't think about it too much. I'm 3 years older than you. It's normal for me to remember things better, he said, ruffling my hair. Then this A-list celebrity bought me a bag of hot roasted chestnuts from a street vendor. As I ate the chestnuts he had peeled for me, I felt a strange tingling in my head. Damn it. My dormant romantic side was starting to wake up. On the 7th day of the new year, the fantasy drama I co-starred in with Ethan finally premiered. Putting all other factors aside, the show had a solid production team. Almost all the well-known supporting actors had more impressive resumes than me. I had definitely gotten a boost from the reality show incident. And with Ethan rarely doing TV shows, expectations were high before the premiere. The only one people were lenient about was me. The general attitude was, well, if this woman doesn't make it in showbiz, she can always go hunt ghosts. When the show aired, my parents sat in front of the TV waiting. I was getting ready to go back to work. During the show's run, I had to help with promotions, which included playing up the romance with Ethan. I never expected our ship to actually take off. The studio and gossip blogs released a lot of behind-the-scenes footage, and people noticed that the interactions between Ethan and me were a little different. Shippers. What is this, a visual feast? Mom, the way he looks at her is definitely not innocent. Back off, Ethan. Mia is mine. They're so perfect together. My fans were just relieved that I could actually act. Now we don't have to say our girl is only good for her looks and ghost hunting. Mia, you're killing me. That look in your eyes when you hold the sword, I love it. Go, Mia, go. I mean, I did go to acting school. Why were so many people convinced I couldn't act? My assistant gave me a resentful look. Mia, have you seen the shows you did before? In one you were made to look ugly. In another your scenes were butchered in editing. Ruby was smiling like a flower in bloom. Mia, there's a red carpet event next week. I've arranged for you and Ethan to walk it together. Me. On the night of the red carpet, Ethan and I appeared together. I was in a beautiful but freezing evening gown, and he was in a sharp suit. After we walked the carpet, away from the cameras, he took off his suit jacket and put it on me. I'll take you home later, he said in a low voice. Wait for me. He was then called away by his assistant. After the event, I got into his car, wearing his jacket. Just before we reached my house, he leaned over to unbuckle my seatbelt. He was so close I held my breath for a moment. "Mia, have you still not decided?" he asked. After watching the movie and eating the chestnuts he peeled for me that day, I had told him I needed to think about it, and that was that. He, however, continued to check in on me as usual, and his advances became even more blatant. When Ethan said he wanted to drive me home tonight, I guess he couldn't wait any longer. His handsome face was so close, and he looked particularly good tonight. I couldn't resist. I leaned in and gave him a peck on the cheek. Ethan paused. "What does that mean?" I blinked. "What do you think, boyfriend?" Ethan. "Then give me another one." The day after I started dating Ethan, I was shipped off to a remote mountain location for a new role. We were out of contact for a while. Ethan later complained that he felt like a pure-hearted young man whose feelings had been trifled with. I laughed so hard I almost died. My career really did start to take off. My ship with Ethan maintained a stable fanbase, but we didn't work together again after that. The paparazzi weren't good enough to catch us either. Besides acting, I occasionally helped the government handle some supernatural incidents. Life was pretty good. In the second year of our relationship, I took Ethan to meet my great-grandfather. The first thing my great-grandpa said upon meeting him was, "This isn't some spiritual battery you found, is he?" Ethan's positive energy was strong, and I had a heavy yin aura. In terms of yin and yang, he did fit that description, but my great-grandpa's words made my romantic intentions sound impure. My great-grandpa was very pleased with Ethan because Ethan knew how to subtly let him win at chess. That night, after I got out of the shower and sat down next to Ethan, he stared at me for a long time before suddenly asking, "Mia, am I your spiritual battery?" "Me?" ? Just as I thought he was about to start a fight, Ethan's voice grew hoarse. "If I'm your battery, then shouldn't we be dual cultivating right now?" He reached out and switched on a dim, atmospheric lamp. Before I could react, I was pulled into a cultivation session. I had always thought the term spiritual battery was a bit disrespectful, but I never expected Ethan to embrace the role so enthusiastically. He was quite dedicated. During the national holiday in our third year together, we were finally photographed. His fans, very sensibly, tried to debunk the rumors. Ethan is just repaying his debt of gratitude. That repaying a debt joke had been going on for years. But this time, Ethan replied to that comment. "A debt of life can only be repaid by giving myself to her." With the man himself confirming it, the trending topics exploded. The PR plan Ruby had been preparing for 3 years was finally put to use. However, Ethan just wrapped his arms around me and said, "It's time you gave me an official title." Me? Yes, of course. We got our marriage license on the Chishi festival. Ethan excitedly posted a picture of our marriage certificates on his social media. Amidst a sea of blessings, something strange popped up. The official account of the Zhao group reposted, "Congratulations on your wedding, third young master. You're finally official." Before netizens could react, my dad, the newly minted father-in-law, got competitive. Soon after, the official Gu Corp account reposted, "Congratulations to our eldest daughter on her marriage. Bring your husband home for dinner sometime." The netizens finally couldn't hold back. So if these two don't make it in showbiz, they both have family fortunes to inherit? An arranged business merger. So romantic. The end.